Hi folks, this is Kellyanne with Church at Windows. We're going to go ahead and get started. On the screen it does say 12:59, but the phone here and my cell phone both say 1, so I think our computer's a minute behind there. Let me go ahead and get rid of the presentation on screen. That's weird, I'm hearing a little static all of a sudden in my headphones. That's odd. Okay, well hopefully it's just for me. Let me make sure I unmuted myself in both spots. I double mute myself. Yes, all right. So we're going to go ahead and get started today. And today we're going to look at check printing. That's a really quick topic. It's about 4 pages. If you own any of the accounting workbooks or are interested in purchasing those, the material I'm going over today is taken from the Accounting 103 book, and it begins on page 39 through the end of the book. If you're interested in purchasing those, they're available on our website under Beginning. And then if you go to Training Workbooks, here's some information. You can purchase a download link that we'd send you that you'd print. That would be $12. Or if you wanted to have us print it and bind it for you and mail it to you, that would be $22. There's some packages for each of the different modules, or you can see for each of the modules the different workbooks, the topics, and then a link over to the right where you can click to purchase the downloadable or the pre-printed that we would print and send to you. But again, what I'm going to show you is from Accounting 103, the very end of the book, the last few pages starting on page 39. All right, so also, we'll go back to the main page in case we need to return here for anything. If it's your first time using the GoToWebinar toolbar, on that toolbar there is a little red arrow just to the side of that, and if you click on that, that will minimize the toolbar so it's not blocking what I'm showing you. And then if you click on that again, it will open it back up, so if you need to type a question or do anything in the panel, it opens back up for you. Questions, it's just me. Usually we have someone here to help answer questions, but we have a lot of people out sick. Rachel's sister had her baby. Rachel should be having hers sometime soon. Pam is also out because she has a new grandbaby. So with all the people out today, we are keeping as many people on the phone to help people who are calling in, and I'll just be answering questions at the end of today's webinar. So it's just me. You can type your question during the middle of the webinar, but chances are we're only covering about 4 pages. I'll probably hold off until the end to answer any questions. And just for those, out of respect for those who are coming to learn about print checks, let's try to keep questions topical. If you have questions pertaining to your specific data or another module, we'd be happy to answer those, but probably better to call support or email us with that question so we can help you with your specific data. All right, without further ado and introductions, let's go ahead and I'm going to click on Church Windows down here. I already have Church Windows open, and I opened Accounting to save time. I just open it by clicking on the word Accounting. And maximize our screen. If you're following along in the book, we're at the bottom of 39 on print checks. We're assuming already if we're starting with print checks, then you've already gone through and entered a bill and paid the bill and asked it to be computer prepared checks. We're not going to cover enter or pay bills. We're just looking at print checks. If in pay bills, I'll show you one thing here. If in pay bills, if you just hit, it's kind of grayed out on the bottom, but if you just hit post, let me add something so it lights up. There we go. Down along the bottom, if I just hit post, then I'm just posting. It's not going to open my print check screen. I'd have to open that from the main menu or main screen. If you click post and print checks when you're paying your bills, then after you say yes or no to whether you'd like to print the report, then it will open up the print check screen. So if you just hit post and you don't have the print check screen, we'll delete because we're not going to post that batch, then all you do here is in the lower right click print checks, or again in pay bills, if you hit pay and print, then it will automatically open the print check screen after it tells you the transaction number and you say whether or not you want to print the pay bills report. All right, so here we are in print checks, and we have some checks waiting to print. If you look at the top of 40, it tells us this screen's going to show us a check for any payment that we entered in Pay Bills where our method of payment was computer check. So once we come in, you see the check date is going to default to today's date. That can be different than what you put in Enter Bills or Pay Bills. It's up to you, but the system always defaults to the day it reads from the computer, which typically is the current date, unless your computer's off. I can change that date if I want. I'm going to leave that today's date. Check layout is the next thing we see. The program comes with check stub stub or a stub check stub layout. So you'd want to choose whichever you'd like. We'll go ahead and look at the check stub stub first. The check designer just to the right, if we click on that, that's an area, we're not going to go into detail about that, but here in the check designer, this is where you see the actual layout of the check you're printing, and you can add things, delete things, move things around if they're not lining up exactly with the checks that you've purchased. Would you see that is there? Now, if you have more than one asset account that you paid bills and sent computer prepared checks over the print check screen for, then where it says assets with checks to print, if you don't see the correct checks there, then you might need to click the little down arrow here. And we only have checks waiting for one asset, but if I had checks waiting for more than one asset account, from this menu or the drop down list, I could choose the asset I need. Then I move over to starting check number, and I go ahead and type in the check number. Now we've decided we are not going to pay Christian Bible Supplies today. So what I can do here on the left side, the default is for all of your checks to be checked to print. I can just uncheck if there's something I don't want to print and leave anything else checked to print that I do want to print. And now I want to go ahead and put in my starting check number. And then if I hit tab or if I hit print, either way, but I like to hit tab so I can see the actual check numbers on screen. If I were to hit print, it would automatically assign them. But if I hit tab, now we see it jumped over Christian Bible Supplies because I unchecked that I want to print that one today. And we see it went ahead and added sequentially check numbers for Hallie Wilson and for Crop Walk. Maybe we realized something happened with check 1244. We spilled coffee on it, or it accidentally got torn, or something happened to that. We want to put a different check number in. You can just click on any of these lines and edit the check number if you need to do that. It will fill them in sequentially down the line based on whatever starting check number you enter, but we can go ahead and edit those right here along each separate line. Now that's the bottom of page 40. So if you're following along in the book, we can flip to page 41, and there's a nice screenshot showing how it skipped over Christian Bible Supplies because we indicated we did not want to print a check. Maybe we want to add a memo to our Crop Walk. We can go ahead, click here, and enter whatever we'd like it to say on the memo line. Maybe it's our collections for first quarter, so we want to put that on the memo of the check. Once we have our layout, our correct asset, put in our starting check numbers. If you want something on the memo of the check, you can add that. If you wanted comments, those comments are entered over in the Pay Bills screen. And I did enter one. I entered something similar for the Crop Walk. So let's go ahead and we're going to click Print. And that will bring up a sample or a preview of our actual check. So we see at the very top the check, first check for Hallie Wilson is check number 1243. If we scroll, we see the stub. There's two different stubs. The top stub is to be mailed with the check, and then the bottom stub is for the church records. Notice I did not put any comments when I paid these bills for Hallie, so there's no comments here. The bottom stub, though, we can see the information we entered in Enter Bills, where we chose our specific expense account. If we scroll down, we see our second check for Crop Walk, and it's $12.45 because we didn't want to do those in sequence. And here, let me get my spotlight because I put very similar memo versus comments. If we look On the actual check, we see the memo that I entered. You watch me enter that right on the print check screen. But then when I actually paid the bill, I put some comments in on the pay bill screen. And here we see those comments. Go ahead and erase my drawings and get my clicking tool back here. Now again, that is the check stub format. Let me go ahead. I'm going to close this. I'm not going to print them. I want to close it. And instead, let's go ahead and choose, because I did not print that, the program will recognize when I send it to the printer. And had I closed that, if I had sent it to the printer and closed that, I'd get a message asking me, did my checks print correctly? But the program, all I did was open the preview and close it. I sent nothing to the printer. So notice all my checks are still sitting there. I'm going to choose now check stub instead, just so you can see what that format looks like. And now I'll click print, and notice here we have the stub at the top for the employee, the check in the middle, and then the stub for the church records at the bottom. And same for crop walk. Now I'm going to go ahead and hit print. And what you normally would do when you hit print is choose the printer you want to send it to. This computer in the front office that I'm using today, we don't have it hooked up to any printer, so I'm just going to choose PDF Factory and trick it into thinking I printed something. But what you'll actually do is choose your printer and hit print to send that to the printer so it really prints a check. I tricked it by turning it into a PDF and hit print on that, and that turned it to a PDF. And now when I close this preview, the program's going to think I sent it to an actual printer, and it says, did the checks print correctly? If they did print correctly, and I would go walk over to your printer, take a look, make sure they didn't print front to back when you wanted back to front, make sure nothing got jammed, all the printing is legible, you weren't running out of ink. Just take a look and make sure the checks are correct before you say yes here, because if I tell it no, let's go ahead and do that. The program will then say, indicate which checks, if any, printed correctly. So maybe that last one for crop walk got jammed up in the printer or something occurred, and we need to reprint that. So we're going to tell the program which ones printed correctly by checking this checkbox. So we'll say, yes, Hallie printed correctly. So I'll say OK. And now notice I have the Christian Bible supplies, which we had opted not to print, and my crop walk. So let's go ahead. We can put in a check number for that and click print. And again, I'm going to trick it into thinking I'm printing it. And now when I close this, it will say, did the checks print correctly? If everything prints correctly, then you go ahead and say yes. And now it's removed both Hallie and crop walk from the print check screen. If I go ahead and close out of here, if I were to go back into print checks again, we'll just see the one Christian Bible supplies still waiting for me to print when I'm ready. And if we go over to transactions and browse, I like seeing my screens maximized, so we'll make that bigger. If I scroll to the bottom, my payments should be down here. So we see my payment to crop walk. And if you look across towards the right, let me get my spotlight. Here we see 1246 is our check number and 1243 as the check number for Hallie Wilson. So when you go and you print a check, all that does is add the check. Well, it prints your check for you, but in Browse, it simply adds that checker reference number to the payment transaction. It doesn't add it to the bill, but it does add it to the payment transaction. All right, let me go ahead and get my clicking tool back. Now, if a check is ruined by the printer, maybe that 44 and 45 got ruined, and that's why I had to reprint. It's a good idea to go to Transactions Other and enter spoiled check number. And then I could do 12, we'll just say 1245. You'd enter whatever check number it was, the asset account it was for, and then some notes so you know what went on. And notice there's no dollar amounts here. This is not voiding anything out of the system. All this is going to do is put a a line in my check register indicating that on 7/18 of 2017 I voided or entered this as a spoiled check number 1245, and my comments were jammed in the printer. So really it's just more of a reference for you as to what happened to that check. So let's go ahead. Here we can go ahead and take a look at that. Whoops, check register. It's not a report I bring up often. Don't get lots of calls about that. Let's just look at June. And we'll just look through today. Choose our Huntington Bank and click print. And now here we see, let me highlight it for you, right here. There we go. There is what we just entered to indicate for ourselves what happened to check number 1244, 1240 or 1245. We probably also, if 1244 was jammed in the printer, we can go enter another voided check for that as well. All right, and that, I've got 5 minutes to spare. I tried to ramble and talk as much as I could and fill in extra there because we really only had about 2.5 pages to cover there with print checks. It's not a really in-depth or lengthy topic. So let me go ahead and close this and see, are there any questions about printing checks? Somebody said, so the comments that will show are the comments you enter in pay bills. That's different than the memo. There you can add a memo. There's also comments, but it does tell you in pay bills. Comments will appear on the check stubs. You can use the INS to insert comments if you entered them in enter bills. Let me show you what it means by that. She said enter in the bills pays. Okay, I'm not sure what you're saying there, so let me show you what happens with comments. Comments, whoops, let me get my clicking tool back instead of the highlighter. If in enter bills you enter comments, those do not print on the check, and it clearly tells you that lower left. Use the INS column in pay bills to insert comments onto check stubs. I think it used to say the comments that you enter here do not show on checks. It doesn't say that anymore. It just tells you that you got to use the IRNS. Oops, Ameritech, that would be phone if I really want to be specific. So we'll choose telephone. $34. We'll say June bill. So say I enter a bill and I enter comments. Post and pay those bills. I don't want to print that. Takes me to pay bills where the bill's right on the screen. Now I can click right here on the INS button because I need anything I enter in pay bills. If you think about it logically, pay bills is where you choose the asset that the check is coming out of, and whatever you do in pay bills affects the actual check. So if you want comments to be on the check, you need to make sure you carry those over to pay bills. So I entered them in enter bills, and now on the pay bills screen over the right, if I click the little INS button, brings up a window, and if I had multiple bills, it would show me any comments it saw that I entered in enter bills for the bills I have showing on my pay bills screen. Here it shows bills comments. I can click on, if I want to add these to my payment, I can click on append to payment comment, click OK, and it's added those comments. Now I added pretty simple ones, but sometimes comments, could get pretty complicated. So it could save you a lot of time if you have multiple bills there with lots of comments you entered in enter bills. So now if I click post and print, I don't want to print the report about pay bills. Now in print checks, I can go ahead and put in my check number. What was it, 1247 if we're going, or did I have 6? I'm losing track of my numbers, but this isn't real, so it's okay. We'll choose Ameritech and put a check number in and click print. And notice now what I carried over to pay bills is what what now shows in my comments. The memo that you watched me type earlier when we were in the print check screen, that shows on the actual check portion. So if you wanted, a memo, you can add that right here. I'll just put this as a memo right here on the print check screen. And those memos print on the actual check. Now also, keep in mind you can go into Check Designer and move comments or memos to wherever you like. But memos do not appear in your browser for the transaction. A memo is only going to appear on the checks. So while some people thought, I know in the past, that they could just put memos wherever they wanted, comments to be, and then just enter those in print checks, remember that does not print or show in your transaction browse screen because it wasn't actually entered on a transaction. It was just a memo for a check. Somebody asked, can you move the report up? Sure, let me get my clicking tool. It just shows you down on the bottom. The comments are both on the stubs. All right, are there other questions? That's a common question. Here, we'll make it like that so you can see the whole thing at once. You are welcome. All right, well that's all I wanted to show you. Someone asked, is payroll another module? Yes, payroll is a separate module from Church Windows. If you look on the opening screen of Church Windows, you've got membership scheduler, donations, accounting, and then some tools. And payroll, we have in the upper left corner, you can see there's the regular Church Windows, and payroll is a completely separate module from the other programs. The other programs, are all within the one module, whereas payroll is, its own separate module, has its own icon on the desktop. All right, if you're in the middle of typing a question, I would go ahead and hit enter and then continue with the rest of your question. That way I won't close the room before you finish typing. So I'm not seeing any other questions come in. So if there are no other questions, pretty simple topic, I think, once you look at it and go through it. A little more complex if you're going into the report designer, but again, that wasn't a topic we're covering. But if you need more help with that or anything having to do with print checks that's more specific to your data, or you come up with a question 10 minutes from now, definitely give us a call or email us. Either way, we're happy to help. I take a late lunch, so if you call and ask for me, I'm going to be on the phone until 2, and then I will be taking my lunch from 2 to 3. But again, give us a call if you have questions. If you are interested in the workbooks where that material is from that I was working with, those are under beginning and training workbooks. And definitely take a look at our website for other live webinars, because we have those all the time, and we will clean this one up, and typically we put new ones up on the website on Thursdays, I believe, unless support is slow and Robert has more time early in the week, but usually has time on Thursdays that he sits down and cleans them all up and puts any new ones up on the website. All right, well, thank you all for attending, and I'm sure I'll see you in more classes or talk to you on the phone in the future. You have a great week. Bye.